Joe Biden actually signaled defeat for Ukraine in the Russia-Ukraine war. So he was talking about the May jobs report. He had a little conference, and he got a question about Ukraine and said that they would likely have to come to a, quote, negotiated settlement.
Mr. President, does Ukraine have to cede territory to achieve some peace?
You know, you've been always fair with me. From the beginning, I've said, and not everyone's agreed with me, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. It's their territory. I'm not going to tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But it appears to me that at some point along the line, there's a settlement here. And what that entails, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows at the time. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to put the Ukrainians in a position where they can defend themselves. Thank you.
Okay, so that little glitch where the sound cut out is where he said there's going to be a negotiated settlement. And the sound just didn't cut out on that video or our stream. It turns out that was just like the source audio cutting out at a point where he said negotiated settlement. All right. But, okay. Once again, I said this, I forget when that we did. It was right at the beginning of the war.
Right at the beginning. Yeah.
I quoted Jeremy Corbyn. Sorry, mine went blank for a second there. He said, look, all wars end politically. All wars end with politics and diplomacy. So why don't we just skip the killing part and go straight to the talking part? Because, and that one of the reasons why I quoted that is because I said at the beginning, as someone who I will fully confess, I had not known much about this topic until this war broke out. But I just said intuitively, I know it because it's been the history of every war we've fought basically for the past 50 years, that it always ends the way we think it's going to end at the very beginning. The war does not actually change the solution at all, which means they're all just a giant waste of life and resources. Of course, it's not a waste of resources for the actual beneficiaries of the war, like Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. They make a fortune. But how can people, they talk about how, Democrats, Democrats think half the country's dumb. Well, I think all the country's dumb. I think the entire country is dumb. How could you be, even if you are the most jingoistic, just flag-waving American slob who support our troops and with the freedom fries in Iraq and, those French, they'd all be speaking German if it wasn't for us, blah, 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 blah. Even if you buy all of this, even if you just drink the red, white, and blue Kool-Aid all day, every day, how do you not understand that we've lost all of these wars? I mean, if you're so proud of this country the way it is, if you love this country so much, then don't you ever stop and think, hey, we've lost all of these wars that we fought for the past 50 years. We never achieve what we want. Like, you can't actually argue, like, no one can actually argue that these wars have made our country better off because we've pretty much lost all of them. And so if they haven't made the country better off, then don't you think all of the blood and treasure spent on these wars, had we not done that, the country would be much better off for not having been involved in these wars? How do you keep falling for the same thing over and over and over again? And this time you really got duped, because this time Joe Biden, who, as we saw in that press conference, can barely get through a sentence. I mean, he's almost falling asleep whenever he talks. He convinced you that Ukraine had a chance to win a ground war against Russia? You actually bought that line of shit? I mean, I'm sorry, it's just shockingly dumb. And what he said there is that, yes, it's going to end in a negotiated settlement. Well, guess what? That negotiated settlement could have happened back in February, and all of this could have been avoided. All of this could have been avoided, and it should have been avoided. And we were right about that, too. So like I said, this is sort of a victory lap show this evening that we have to take here.
Well,
but we have to take it because
it keeps reminding me of a classic Seinfeld episode where they actually played Risk. And anybody who has played Risk, a lot of it was pretty funny because it was written like you have to know that game to get some of these jokes. And he kept saying, I've got a lot of men on the Ukraine.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. We got a lot of men on the Ukraine. We're gonna come back and win the game with Ukraine. We've got all of our forces concentrated in Ukraine. Yeah, of course. In the end, if you know Russia's history of warfare, those are not people who are afraid to fight a prolonged battle of attrition that cost them horrific losses in material and to win. That's pretty much how they've done war throughout their history. That's how they won World War II, with massive, overwhelming numbers. Just throwing so many people into the meat grinder that eventually the battle tipped in their favor. Plus winter, they always rely on the winter, although that won't work with the Ukrainians. They're the same peoples basically in regards to that.
Right. This is just a matter of size. They're just bigger.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I said, just look at a map.
Because just the size of them, they'll win a war of attrition, and as a people, they are uniquely disposed to fight a war of attrition to the end. So they're not going to quit. They're not going to hit a point where they say, "No, it's too much now. We've lost too much now."
Yeah, and they're not being boxed out of the global economy really any more than the average middle-class American is being boxed out of the global economy, right? I mean, like, they're not suffering the way we... And look, this is why Vladimir Putin did this at this time, because he knew that we couldn't afford to fight back, and we cannot afford to fight back. We can't afford to fight back. Germany started buying gas in rubles now. I mean, they're just, they have to. They have to. Russia gets 40% of its gas. Europe gets 40% of its gas from Russia. We get 10% of our gas from Russia, and look at the havoc it's causing here. These European countries simply cannot afford to do this. And he knew that, and for all the bullshit op-eds about Putin's biggest mistake, Putin didn't see this coming. Click here to find out what Putin didn't see coming, right? It's all just nonsense. It's nonsense. Russia is winning. Of course they're winning. Look at a map. Look at the size of the country versus the size of the country they're fighting. That's why they're winning. It's the simplest thing in the world.
Right. Because in the end, they can afford setbacks.
Of course.
Ukraine can't. They just they just don't have enough people.
Right. And the thing about Biden.
They had a general. I forget which show he was on, who basically laid it out, and he was saying for Ukraine to actually win this war, in addition to the forces they have in the field right now, they'd have to be able to mount a force of 100,000 to actually start to attack and push Russia back to its borders. He was just basically saying it's not militarily possible for Ukraine to win this war with the numbers that they have. It just can't be done.
No, of course it can't be done. Again, completely obvious from day one, right? And
unless there are a lot of what was it? The Women's March had like 1 million people, right? So if they want to go,
that's the thing. If all the liberals who think this fight is so important would go and put their money where their big fucking mouths are, then maybe they'd have enough people. Because
where's the hashtag resistance to help out the Ukrainians? Where are they?
Because once again, we've said this many times here. Ukraine is waiving visa requirements for anyone who wants to go and fight.
Yeah. And I heard they're getting paid like double or triple what the Ukrainians are getting paid.
Really?
No, I heard they're getting paid like $1,500 a day or something to go over there and fight.
Wow, come to think of it, maybe I'll think about going. I have to check my calendar.
Look at me working my ass off.
Yeah, right. Where's my calendar? I gotta see what I got going on next week. Maybe we'll have to cancel next week's show.
Fighting, I get a little Creole cottage.
We'll have to take a month off from doing the show. We'll go fight for Ukraine, and then we'll come back and we'll have a real set and everything, and we'll finance the whole operation.
Yeah, we're gonna make the bridge of the Millennium Falcon.
Please clap.